Dr. Ethan Rourke walked through the bustling corridors of the Interstellar Research Station, his boots making soft echoes on the metal floor. The station hovered above a distant planet, and outside the tall glass windows, swirling clouds of green and purple gas painted the sky. Scientists and aliens moved in every direction, talking in strange languages, carrying instruments and checking monitors. Ethan had seen many alien species in his life, but he had never met one like the newcomer arriving today. The alarm sounded softly, a signal that the new life form had been transported into the observation bay. Other humans and alien scientists whispered nervously. Some even covered their faces or took a step back. "Is it really necessary to see it up close?" one of the junior researchers asked, her voice trembling. Ethan ignored them. He had spent years studying life forms, and he had learned to keep his fear in check. As he stepped into the observation bay, he saw her. A creature unlike anything he had imagined. Her body was large and uneven, with several limbs moving independently. Her skin shimmered in dark patches, sometimes green, sometimes purple, and seemed to ripple like liquid. Her eyes were many, placed all over her head, blinking independently, tracking every movement in the room. The other humans flinched, and some even stepped back quickly, muttering words like hideous and monster. Ethan felt a pang of sadness. He did not see a monster. He saw fear, her own fear and the fear of those around her. The alien, Valira, as a soft telepathic voice soon told him, kept her body low to the floor, tense and guarded. She had been held in containment pods on her home planet for study, her species rarely seen by outsiders. She could sense the nervousness in the humans around her. Her body flickered with a strange energy, warning them to keep their distance. And almost everyone did. Everyone, that is, except Ethan. He moved slowly, hands held slightly forward to show he meant no harm. "Hello," he said softly. "I'm Dr. Ethan Rourke. I'm not here to hurt you." His voice was calm, almost gentle, and it carried no fear. Valira tilted her head, watching him with dozens of blinking eyes. The whispers in the room grew louder. "He's crazy," someone said. "No one should get that close." Ethan ignored the comments. He had a gift, or maybe a curse, of staying calm when others panicked. That calmness had saved him many times in dangerous research missions, and he hoped it would help now. He crouched slightly, coming to eye level with the alien's front limbs. "I want to understand you," he said. "I want to help." Valira's body shifted again, this time more slowly. The shimmering on her skin dimmed slightly. She had never experienced a human who did not flinch at her appearance. Most others screamed, ran, or raised protective weapons. But Ethan did nothing of the sort. His stillness was like a mirror, reflecting her fear and telling her it was safe, at least for this moment. He extended his hand slowly. "I know you are scared," he said. "But I am not going to hurt you. I just want to see you, to learn who you are." His words were not magical, but they carried something deeper: trust. Valira hesitated. Her long limbs trembled, not in anger but in uncertainty. She had learned for centuries that appearances could make others attack or reject her. But something about this human made her pause. No one had ever spoken like this before. Her telepathic senses picked up the absence of fear. It was strange and new, and it made her curious. Slowly, she allowed one of her smaller limbs to reach toward him, hovering just above his extended hand. Ethan held still, waiting patiently. Every second felt long, stretched by tension and wonder. The room was quiet, the other humans frozen, unsure whether to step forward or stay back. Valira's skin shimmered, the colors shifting from deep purple to soft silver, like a dim sunrise. She studied him with all her eyes, trying to decide if this human was a threat. "You are different," she thought, sending a faint wave of telepathy. "You are not afraid." "I'm not," Ethan replied simply, speaking aloud and not just through thought. "I want to see you, all of you." For the first time in her life outside her home planet, Valira felt something like trust. It was fragile, delicate, but it existed. Slowly, she rose slightly, her body moving with cautious grace. The other humans gasped and stepped back, muttering about danger. Ethan did not flinch. He smiled gently, a small but steady gesture of reassurance. That moment, simple as it seemed, was powerful. For the first time, a human had looked at her and seen beyond the strange, frightening exterior. Ethan did not see the limbs, the uneven skin, the blinking eyes. He saw intelligence, curiosity, and the fear of someone trapped and alone in a world that judged her by looks. Valira tilted her head fully, blinking all her eyes in unison, and let out a sound that was not quite a word but not entirely noise either. Ethan recognized it as a form of greeting. He smiled wider. "Hello," he said again. I'm glad to meet you. And in that small exchange, the first fragile connection between human and alien was made. It was the beginning of a bond that could change both of their lives, and perhaps the way the universe saw humans. Ethan spent the next few hours in the observation bay, quietly taking notes while Valira watched him. She did not move much, her many limbs folded in ways that seemed protective. But her eyes, dozens of them blinking in all directions, never left him. She was trying to understand this human who had dared to be calm when everyone else panicked. Other scientists came and went, whispering and shaking their heads. "Why is he still there?" one muttered. "He should leave before something happens." Ethan ignored them. He had learned a long time ago that fear could cloud judgment. If he wanted to understand Valira, he had to keep his mind clear and his heart steady. Valira, sensing his patience, finally moved one of her limbs closer. It hovered above the floor, almost like a cautious greeting. Ethan smiled and reached slowly toward her again. He spoke softly. "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to know you. I want to understand why you are here and what makes you, you." Valira tilted her head. Words, at least in her species, were strange. Most humans spoke too loudly, moved too quickly, and showed fear too easily. But Ethan's voice was calm, steady, and kind. She felt something in him that no other being had ever shown her, curiosity without judgment. The telepathic connection between them grew slowly. She sent him small images, memories of her home planet, her family, the forests and rivers she had once known. The humans around them whispered nervously. Some even muttered about too much exposure, or he could be hurt. Ethan ignored them all. He focused on her images, trying to understand the story she was sharing. Valira had been hiding for years, avoiding contact with others because she feared rejection. Her body, large and uneven with shifting colors, had always scared others. She learned early that appearances mattered. When others saw her, they often ran away or attacked. But Ethan, he did not. He saw her as she was, not just as she looked. "Your home, it is beautiful," Ethan said softly. "You have so much history here. I want to learn it." He made no sudden movements, no loud sounds. His calm presence seemed to encourage her. Slowly, Valira began to move her limbs more freely, showing him more of her shape. Ethan noticed her breathing, the way her muscles relaxed slightly. She was testing him, seeing if his patience was real. Most humans would panic or react, but he stayed steady. His eyes were gentle, and his smile was small but real. She felt a strange warmth in the connection, something like trust beginning to form. "Why do you not fear me?" she thought, sending the question to him through their telepathic link. Ethan responded, speaking aloud. "Because fear does not help us understand. I want to know you. I want to help if I can. You are not a monster. You are, you." Valira's skin shimmered, colors shifting faster than before. It was not anger or fear, it was emotion she had never felt with a human. Slowly, she rose slightly, her body extending taller, limbs stretching, moving with caution but also curiosity. The other humans gasped, stepping back even further. Ethan noticed but did not flinch. He stayed where he was, still calm, still welcoming. For the first time, Valira considered showing a little more of herself. She had hidden her true self for centuries, afraid of what others would think. But Ethan's steady presence made her wonder if it was safe, if someone could see her and not run away. She tilted her head, focusing all her eyes on him. Images of her home planet floated in her mind. The glowing rivers, the floating mountains, and the alien sky filled with two suns. Ethan watched the images, understanding them slowly. He whispered, "I see. I understand. You are amazing." His words were simple but filled with meaning. Valira shivered, not from fear but from something new. She felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was someone who could see past her form. Someone who could accept her. She had never felt that before. Most beings ran away at first glance. But Ethan, he stayed. The hours passed and the room grew quieter. Valira moved closer, cautiously, testing his reactions. Ethan reached out again, and this time she allowed one of her smaller limbs to touch his hand lightly. The contact was gentle, almost shy. Ethan smiled softly, not pulling back. His steady calm seemed to encourage her further. Around them, the other scientists murmured, some in fear, some in awe. But Ethan ignored them. He focused only on Valira, giving her the space and patience she needed. And slowly, slowly she began to relax. By the end of the day, something had changed. Valira had not revealed her full form yet, but she had let him see a small part of herself that no one else had. She blinked all her eyes at him, a gesture that felt almost like a smile. Ethan returned it with a calm, warm expression. In that quiet, careful way, a bond began to form. A bond that could grow into something extraordinary. Valira had never met a human like Ethan, one who did not flinch, one who did not judge. And Ethan, for his part, had never met a being so complex, so mysterious, and yet so willing to reveal a part of herself if he only stayed patient. It was the beginning of a story that neither of them would forget. A story of trust, courage, and the first step toward understanding something truly alien. The next morning, Ethan returned to the observation bay before most of the station had even woken. Valira was already there, sitting quietly in a corner of the room, her many limbs folded carefully around her body. The soft glow of the station's lights reflected on her shimmering skin, making her look almost magical. She did not move as Ethan entered. Instead, all her eyes turned toward him, blinking slowly as if waiting to see what he would do. "Good morning," Ethan said softly. He lowered himself to her level again, careful not to startle her. "I brought some samples from the labs. Maybe we can start learning about each other today." Valira tilted her head, a gesture that reminded Ethan of a bird's curiosity. The other humans had been watching from behind the reinforced glass walls, whispering nervously. "He should not be there alone," one of them muttered. "It's too dangerous." But Ethan ignored them. He had learned long ago that fear and caution often blinded people to the truth. Today he would focus only on Valira. He carefully placed the samples on a clean metal table and gestured for her to come closer. For a moment she hesitated, her limbs twitching nervously. Then, slowly, she extended one of her smaller arms toward the table, touching one of the samples lightly. Ethan smiled. "Good. You're curious? That's a start." Valira sent a faint wave of telepathy toward him, images of her home planet again, but this time more detailed. He saw towering crystal forests, rivers that glowed under two suns, and creatures moving in patterns that seemed like music. Ethan studied the images, trying to understand her world. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "I wish I could see it myself." She blinked all her eyes at him, the closest thing to a smile she could manage. It was small, subtle, but Ethan noticed. He had spent years studying alien life, but few had ever shown him something so delicate and precise in communication. "Do you trust me?" he asked softly. It was more than a question, it was a promise. Valira hesitated. She had trusted very few beings before, and none had stayed when faced with her full form. Humans often screamed or ran. Aliens sometimes attacked. But Ethan, he was different. Slowly, she sent him an image, a memory of herself in the forests of her home world, alone but exploring freely. She had never shared this before. Ethan watched the memory with care. "You've been alone a long time," he said. "But not anymore. I want to help." Valira's body shimmered, colors shifting gently from green to silver. She moved closer to him, extending another limb, this one larger, hovering just above the floor. Ethan remained calm, letting her explore at her own pace. He spoke softly, telling her about the station, the humans, and the alien researchers. He did not raise his voice or make sudden movements. Every word was steady, patient, and kind. For hours they worked together. Ethan presented samples, tools, and even small puzzles, watching how she interacted. Valira was cautious at first, but as she learned he would not harm her, she began to experiment. She touched objects, tested reactions, and even created small energy pulses to manipulate the samples. Ethan encouraged her, smiling gently whenever she succeeded. Other humans watched in awe. They whispered about his bravery, but Ethan did not seek their approval. He was focused entirely on understanding her. And Valira noticed. She had never experienced a human so patient, so careful, and so willing to see her for who she truly was. Toward the end of the day, Valira did something new. She moved fully into the center of the room, raising her upper body slightly, showing a part of herself that had always been hidden. Her skin shimmered with bright patterns, light flowing in intricate designs across her body. The other humans gasped, stepping back instinctively. But Ethan remained still, calm and smiling. "You're amazing," he said softly. "I can see why you hid. But I'm glad you're showing me." Valira paused, feeling something strange, something she had never felt before. Fear was still there, but so was curiosity, and slowly a small spark of trust. She had never thought a human could see beyond her exterior. But Ethan did. He had not run, had not screamed, had not tried to control her. He only observed, learned, and respected her. She extended one of her larger limbs fully, reaching toward him again. This time she did not hesitate. Her touch was light, gentle, almost like a greeting. Ethan held still, letting her decide the pace. He smiled. "Thank you," he said softly. "You're safe with me." Valira's eyes blinked in unison, sending a small wave of warmth through the room, a feeling of connection that surprised even her. She had never thought this possible with a human. Most of her kind kept their distance, knowing the danger of trust. But Ethan had given her patience, calm, and understanding. That was enough to start breaking down the walls she had built around herself. As the station's lights dimmed for the evening, Ethan stood slowly, giving her space. "Tomorrow we can continue," he said. "I want to learn more about you." Valira lowered her limbs slightly, her body relaxed more than it had in decades. She did not speak aloud, few of her kind ever did, but she sent him an image, simple and clear. Her home world, glowing and alive, and herself reaching out. It was a small gesture, but for Ethan it was everything. It meant she trusted him even a little. And for Valira, it meant she had found someone who did not fear her, someone who might understand her true self one day. That night, as Ethan left the observation bay, he felt a quiet excitement. The day had been long, tiring, and full of strange moments, but something extraordinary had happened. A bond was forming, one that could change both their lives, and perhaps even the way humans saw alien life. And Valira, alone in the quiet bay, felt a spark of hope. For the first time in centuries, she imagined that maybe she did not have to hide forever. Maybe, with this human, she could reveal herself. The next morning, Ethan returned to the observation bay earlier than usual, hoping Valira would already be awake. She was there, her body stretched slightly, limbs resting lightly on the floor, shimmering in soft shades of silver and green. Unlike the day before, she did not seem as tense. Her eyes blinked slowly, watching him as he entered. "Good morning," Ethan said softly, smiling. "I brought more samples. Maybe today we can try something new." He carefully placed a small container on the table and stepped back slightly, giving her space. Valira observed, moving only a little at first. Then, slowly, she extended one of her limbs toward the table, touching it with a soft, deliberate motion. Ethan nodded. "Good. You're ready to explore." His voice was gentle, calm, and reassuring. He had learned over the past few days that Valira responded best to patience. Sudden movements or loud noises frightened her. His calmness had earned her trust, and that trust was growing. For hours they worked together. Ethan showed her small machines and tools, explaining what they did and how they worked. Valira studied them carefully, her body shifting slightly as she interacted with the objects. Sometimes she sent images through telepathy, memories of her home planet, of rivers that glowed under twin suns, of creatures that moved like music. Ethan watched attentively, making notes and asking questions. Other humans watched from behind the reinforced glass walls. They whispered about how daring, or foolish Ethan was. Some said it was dangerous. But Ethan ignored them. His focus was entirely on Valira. He had learned that fear often blinded people, while patience and understanding could build bridges. As the day passed, Valira began to show signs of comfort. She moved closer to him, limbs hovering near his hands, not in aggression but in cautious exploration. Ethan stayed calm, speaking softly, guiding her without forcing anything. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe. You can show me more if you want." Slowly a change began to appear. Her skin shimmered more brightly than before, colors flowing in patterns across her body. It was as if her confidence was reflected in her appearance. She raised her upper body slightly, allowing him to see her more clearly. Ethan's expression remained calm and encouraging, his smile gentle. "You're amazing," he said softly. "I can see why you've been careful. But I'm glad you're showing me." Valira paused, blinking all her eyes in unison. She had hidden her true self for centuries, afraid of rejection, of the fear her appearance caused. But Ethan's calmness, patience, and understanding made her consider something new. Maybe she could reveal herself at least a little without fear. Encouraged, she extended one of her larger limbs fully, reaching toward him. This time she did not hesitate. Her touch was light but deliberate, brushing his hand gently. Ethan held still, letting her decide the pace. "Thank you," he said softly. "You're safe with me." Valira's body shimmered even more, patterns of light moving across her skin in complex designs. She began to rise, her form stretching taller, more confident. The other humans gasped, taking a step back instinctively. But Ethan stayed calm, smiling gently. His steady presence allowed her to continue, to show more of herself than she ever had before. Images of her home planet appeared in her telepathy, brighter and more detailed than ever. Ethan watched, absorbing every detail. "It's incredible," he whispered. "Your world, your life, it's beautiful." Valira sent a wave of emotion through him, a feeling of trust and curiosity combined. For the first time, she had allowed someone human to see not only her body but her mind and memories. It was a small revelation but powerful. She had never imagined that a human could understand or appreciate her this way. The hours passed and they continued their quiet work. Ethan presented puzzles and small challenges, letting her experiment. Valira responded with growing confidence, her energy pulsing softly as she manipulated objects and interacted with the environment. She was learning that trust could lead to freedom, that showing herself did not mean danger. By evening, Valira had revealed much more than before. Her body glowed with energy, colors flowing across her limbs and torso, revealing patterns and designs that had been hidden for centuries. Ethan remained calm and encouraging, never flinching, never judging. His presence was steady and reassuring, giving her the courage to continue. Finally, she paused, hovering in the center of the room, all her limbs relaxed, all her eyes blinking together. It was as if she were saying, "I trust you completely." Ethan smiled warmly. "You've done so well," he said. "I'm honored you're showing me this." For Valira, it was a moment of release. She had lived for centuries hiding her true self, fearing the reactions of others. But here, with one human who did not flinch, she had revealed more than she ever thought possible. A small spark of hope burned inside her, hope that maybe, just maybe, she did not have to hide anymore. Ethan looked at her, his eyes calm and steady. "Tomorrow we can continue," he said softly. "I want to learn everything about you." Valira lowered her limbs slightly, relaxing completely for the first time in decades. She did not speak aloud, her species rarely did, but she sent him an image, her full form radiant and glowing, and a simple thought, "I trust you." It was a small gesture, but for Ethan it was everything. It meant the trust between them had grown, and it was only the beginning. For Valira, it meant that someone human had accepted her, truly accepted her, and that she could imagine showing herself fully in the future. That night, as Ethan left the observation bay, he felt a quiet excitement. The day had been long and full of strange, wonderful moments. A bond had been formed, one built on patience, understanding, and trust. And for Valira, the spark of hope glowed brighter than ever, a promise that she might no longer need to hide from the universe. The next morning, Ethan returned to the observation bay with a quiet excitement. Today felt different. Valira was already there, sitting in the center of the room. Her many limbs rested lightly on the floor, her body glowing softly as her skin shimmered in flowing patterns of silver, green, and soft gold. The other humans stayed behind the reinforced glass walls, whispering nervously. Some held their breath, unsure of what might happen. Ethan stepped forward slowly, hands held low, showing he meant no harm. "Good morning, Valira," he said softly. "I'm ready if you are." Valira tilted her head, blinking all her eyes in unison. She had grown comfortable with him, more than she had expected in just a few days. His calm presence had allowed her to explore trust for the first time in centuries. She sent him a small wave of telepathy, images of herself as she truly was, her full body glowing with light, wings of energy extending from her back, patterns moving like living art across her skin. Ethan studied the images, his expression calm but filled with awe. "You are magnificent," he whispered. "I see you. I see all of you." For a moment, Valira hesitated. Humans usually ran at this sight. Aliens had often attacked or judged her immediately. But Ethan remained still, patient, and gentle. Slowly she allowed herself to rise fully. Her limbs stretched, her glowing wings unfolded slightly, and her body pulsed with soft light, filling the room with an almost magical radiance. The other humans gasped, some covering their eyes, unable to process the beauty and energy she displayed. Ethan did not flinch. He took a small step forward, careful to remain non-threatening. "You don't need to hide anymore," he said. "I'm here. I accept you completely." Valira's limbs trembled slightly, not in fear, but in the intensity of emotion she had never allowed herself to feel before. No one had ever accepted her fully. No one had ever made her feel safe enough to reveal her true self. Slowly, she touched his hand lightly, a gesture that was both brave and delicate. Ethan held still, allowing her to decide the pace. The connection between them grew stronger. She sent him images of her home world, her family, the forests, the rivers, the skies under twin suns, all of it flowing through him like a river of light. He absorbed it all, speaking softly, asking gentle questions. "I understand," he said. "Your world, your life, your feelings, they matter and I see them." Valira's colors brightened, flowing in complex patterns across her body. She had never allowed herself to feel such relief and trust. Her heart, or whatever part of her held the deepest emotions, beat with a rhythm of hope. She had been alone and hidden for centuries, and now she was seen, truly seen for who she was. The other humans watched in awe. They whispered to one another, some fearful, some amazed, but Ethan did not care about them. His focus was entirely on Valira. His patience, empathy, and courage had unlocked something no one else could. And Valira sensed it. "You trust me," Ethan said softly, almost in awe. She sent him a wave of thought that was simple, clear, and filled with feeling. "Yes." Ethan smiled. "Then we will work together. I want to learn everything about you, and maybe you can learn about us too." Valira's body pulsed with light, her wings extending fully now, showing her true majesty. She had revealed herself completely, not just her appearance but her mind, her emotions, her history, and her trust. She was radiant, a living embodiment of light, energy, and intelligence. Slowly she floated closer to him, her limbs moving with fluid grace. Ethan reached out gently, and she allowed him to take his first true touch of her fully revealed form. It was a connection beyond words, beyond fear, beyond doubt. It was trust made tangible, a bond forged in patience, courage, and understanding. The station around them was silent, humans and aliens alike stunned by the sight. Some whispered in awe, others in fear, but Ethan and Valira were in their own space, a place of shared understanding. It was clear, the bond they had formed was unshakable and nothing could break it. "You've changed everything," Ethan said softly. "Not just for me, for everyone here. You've shown that appearances don't define a being. Courage, empathy, and trust do." Valira pulsed with energy and agreement. For the first time she felt free. Free to be herself without hiding. Free to trust a human. Free to share the light of her true self with the universe. The day passed quietly with Ethan and Valira exploring together, sharing knowledge and building understanding. And as the station's lights dimmed for the night, Valira hovered in the center of the room, her wings glowing softly, her limbs relaxed, and her mind open. She sent Ethan one final message for the day: "I trust you completely. Thank you." Ethan smiled, knowing that this was only the beginning. The bond they had formed would grow stronger, not just between them, but as a symbol for everyone who witnessed it. Humans could inspire trust, courage, and hope in even the most feared beings. And Valira, for the first time in centuries, allowed herself to feel something she had long thought impossible: hope. Hope that the universe could see her as she truly was. Hope that someone could accept her entirely. Hope that she did not need to hide anymore. It was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for her but for humans, aliens, and all who would witness the power of trust and understanding. Together they had proven that courage and empathy could transcend fear, and that even the most unlikely connections could change the course of lives, and perhaps the universe itself.